Hello and welcome everyone today on this glorious Saturday at London Investor Show. I'm Patrick Dooley of Solomon Global. I'm here today with Clem Chambers, renowned market expert, Forbes columnist, and current founder of newfn.com. And we're here today really to talk about gold. It's been everywhere, it's been in the news, it's been on your screens, and we're looking really at how long can gold's historic run last? Now, what are the main drivers that are pushing the gold price up? When could we see $5,000 or even $10,000 is now being discussed? And if you're looking to get investing into gold, what are the tax efficient strategies that are available to all of us? So I'm gonna start off really on that notion. It's been a storming year for gold in the last 12 months, up over 50%, hitting highs of $4,300 plus. And Clem, our expert, what's happening? What's driving this gold price?
I used to be a spurt, but now I'm an expert. When I came on this show a year ago, I discussed and I was saying things that people would look at me and going, You're mad. What are you talking about? And I was saying gold is for war. Because if you think about gold, why do countries have warehouses full of gold? And of course, the classic answer is, oh, well, gold's money and they're going to have money in gold again and silver and all that. Because they're never going to do that. So why have they got warehouses full of gold? Why do countries have warehouses full of gold? Well, because gold is for war. It's the currency of war. And you can't fight a war if you haven't got gold. That's why the Americans parked tanks on Fort Knox. So if you say, well, governments keep gold as a strategic reserve of currency for war, and if you look at the history of war, it's all about gold and which direction the gold is going and where they're putting the gold, and the Odessa file, Nazi gold, and submarines of gold, etc. Actually, Saddam Hussein's gold driving to the border in trucks. You realize that gold is for war. So gold will move if international stress goes up. So that was my premise. There's going to be more international stress going forward. Gold is going to move. And anybody that's nervous about global stress should buy gold, because the ramifications of increased international stress is that gold will go up, because countries will buy gold, because the road towards war has to be the road towards laying in the strategic currency of war, because you just can't buy it the day before. You have to say, risk assessment, I think we need some more of that gold. So that was my model. Well, as we've seen, global stress has continued to rise, and with it, the price of gold. And who are buying gold? Well, you can go onto the internet and find out, funny enough, China is buying a lot of gold. It makes a lot of gold, it mines a lot of gold, but it's also buying it. Now, if you are an institution and your client is retail, you can push them about, and you can push the price about of a retail asset. And up until very recently, that's what the big banks have been doing. But when governments start buying, they have to get out of the way. Now, if you think that premise, gold is for war, is a little bit tenuous, go look at the Polish finance minister holding up a gold bar saying, we're buying gold. Aha, okay, why would Poland buy gold? Doesn't take a genius to work that one out. So anyway, here we are. That was my thesis a year ago.
Yes.
On this stage. And here we are with a lot more money than we had a year ago.
A year ago, we were at $3,000 an ounce of gold, and today we're just over $4,000 an ounce of gold. So is anything changing?
Well, gold is for war. Where's the war? Who's going to do the war? Well, I think we have a good idea of who would be the parties in that. And what is the critical point? Now, the critical point, if you go to the Ministry of Defense or anybody in government and you say, I've got a new weapon, I've got a new idea for defense, they say this. They say, will it be ready by 2027? And you say, no. And they say, not interested. If you say yes, they say, tell me more. 2027. They will literally say to you, if it ain't ready by 2027, we are not interested. That should make a little cold shiver go down your spine. Why is that? Well, 2027 is the 100th anniversary of the PLA and the date that Xi has said China has to be ready to take Taiwan. He said it. That's the moment where China has to be ready to be a superpower that can defend and do what it likes on the world stage, 2027. So if you talk to anybody in the Western defense nomenclature, and you've got something that might be useful for the future, if it ain't ready for 2027, they're not interested, right? So that is the year, the month before that date is going to be the high of gold, or just the halfway mark of the price of gold. So here we've got a repricing, and it will sit around here until somebody in Washington or Beijing goes boo, and then it'll go bang, 8,000 or something like that.
And Clem, obviously, you know, we all see the uncertainty and the geopolitical tension around the world, and where it could be heading. What was interesting, I think, a week ago, or last week, even when peace was seemingly beginning to unfold in the Middle East, gold was still doing this. So obviously we know that there's economic uncertainty at the moment, and we know that the devaluation of the US dollar is at play. Do you see these all being linked to Gold's war, or do you think they sort of complement the complementary factors that are also happening individually, you know, differently, but all conjuring this move in gold at the moment?
Imagine this what if. Imagine that Japan vanished overnight. I don't know, tidal wave, whatever, aliens, just gone, right? The Dow, what would the Dow do in the morning? It would probably drop 15%. So, big deal, 15% on the stock market, yeah? It wouldn't go down much more than that. China at war with America, we're talking about billions of people dead.
Yeah.
It's a whole order of magnitude bigger. I mean, it's just, if you imagine World War II starting, that was bad. But China versus America, that's Armageddon. What's the price of gold then?
Yeah.
And the critical focal point of that is China readiness in 2027. And it's not like, oh, you know, I just happened to overhear some Chinese people talking. It's on the record. You can go onto your internet right now and say, our 100th year anniversary of the People's Liberation Army, 2027. And what she said about that, will be ready in 2027. We will be ready. What for exactly? Yeah. So that is the terminal of the price of gold as we know it within a peacetime economy.
Yeah.
And every day that goes towards that date, there will be upward pressure on gold. For a start, China will be just buying it. I mean, it's not as if it's a secret. It's not a secret. It's there. It was said, and the West knows it, and the West is preparing for that. And just look for the word rearmament, and there it is.
Well, it's been a mad time because over the last 25 years, we've seen just under a 12% annual growth in the price of gold, and we've seen 20% in the last month, 63% since Jan. So it brings us on to our next question, Clem, in terms of $5,000. Now, we know that it's been spoken about by the banks. HSBC, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs have forecasted 4.9K next year. And even the CEO of JP Morgan has said that in this environment, $10,000 is not unheard of. It could happen.
Not impossible, yeah.
We spoke a week or so ago on a podcast interview, and you mentioned $10,000 as a magnet number. What brought you to that? And on that journey, where do you think $5,000 gets hit? I mean, we were at nearly $4,500 a few days ago. So where do you see the timelines for private investors?
I mean, $5,000 is just a tweet away, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, The fundamental is you go, gold, what is the use case for gold? Currency, well, it's not retail currency, it's not B2B currency, it's governmental currency. And they are laying it in. And therefore the price is going up because the 800-pound gorilla of economics, i.e. countries, are laying it in because it is a strategic reserve, okay? But it's not stopping today, it's repriced. What happens in a market, it's doing that, and suddenly something changes in the world and it reprices, it goes bang, it reprices. It hits the natural equilibrium point of demand and supply after the repricing, and then it will do that. Now, if something else is going to happen, like there's the due date of 2027, it will sit around there while the market thinks about it, and then it goes, guys, we're getting a bit close, and Beijing, they're making rude noises, it reprices again. Okay, so now we are at an equilibrium level, and it will sit there as long as that price makes sense with the pros and cons of this escalating global dynamic. So, for example, if Russia decided to, play nice, it'd probably pull back.
Yeah.
Right? But that isn't the battle. The battle is China versus America. When by the way, he used to be called the Secretary of Defense in America, and now he's called the Secretary of War.
Yeah.
They changed the label on the tin. What else do you need to know? Well, you need to know that gold is for war, because it's not flight capital anymore. You can't run away with gold anymore. It's just not quite valuable enough. I could not get through an airport with 10% of my wealth in gold. I can get through an airport with 100% of my wealth in Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is for flight. So when people have to do a runner with their ill-gotten gains, Bitcoin goes. But strategically, gold is governmental currency in extremis when they will not take your paper. Now, one of the stories I like to tell, because it's kind of funny and a bit mind-blowing, Portugal made armor-piercing metal. Got it. The name of it always escapes me. I always want to call it strontium, but it isn't. Tungsten. Make tungsten. So the Nazis were buying off the fascist government of Portugal at the time, tungsten in British £5 notes. And the Portuguese, thank you very much for the British £5 notes. Yeah, paper money, but it's British. We like that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Where are you getting this from, Germans? The Germans were printing it. And they were buying tungsten in forged British fibers. So obviously, the Germans had to start paying in gold. Yeah, and that's the fundamental use case of gold in the modern world, is they will not take your paper, they will take gold. Okay, and you better have that in a warehouse if it gets sticky. If you start losing, they're not going to take your promises. So you have to load up on it. Gold is bullets, it's a strategic asset. So the American Secretary of Defense is now the American Secretary of War. He came to Europe and he said, NATO, it's your problem. I know we're part of NATO and all that. We've been back rolling you forever, but you've got to sort that out yourself. You've got your enemy. It's the Russians. Get it sorted. He literally said, we have issues in Asia. He said it. It came out of his mouth, which is when I bought a large amount of gold and a large amount of defense contractors. And you'll notice that all the defense contractors in Europe went through the roof the next day. Well, the American defense stocks are not going through the roof. Well, actually, they started about 3 weeks ago. Have a look at Lockheed Martin. Right? So it's all there. Obviously, lots of people know. The people that tell me if my technology is not ready by 2027, they're not interested. They're already prepared. Most governments in the West consider themselves at war now. Well, gold is the currency of war. Gold is for war, so gold's going up. And it's going up to the point where they've decided they're not going over the edge. And that's going to be 2027, because if China doesn't go over the edge, they're not going over the edge. But if China goes over the edge and takes Taiwan, now, it's really all about China, Taiwan, and America. And you go, I said this to a guy, you should know better. And he said to me, they can't invade Taiwan because Taiwan is just cliffs and it's got 3 beaches and they can defend those beaches because there's only 3 of them. No problem. And I thought, okay, that's good to know. Let me research that. The Chinese have built cliff climbing ships. Cliff climbing ships. Yeah? These ships pull up and they've got bridges that go up on top of the cliffs. And they've got legs on them like fighting machines from all the worlds. They're already there, right? So there's going to be a point, 2027 maybe, 2028, when China will blockade Taiwan. And then America's going to have a choice of Armageddon or saying, yeah, well, it always was yours, you know. Yes, yeah, fair enough. We won't, okay, yeah. And then maybe gold will come down because America will back away, or maybe there'll be a Berlin blockade situation, and then gold will go from 8,000 to 15,000. But the next destination point is 2027, PLA 100th anniversary, the delivery to Xi of his demand that the PLA is ready to do whatever it wants to do, and they have stated Taiwan is coming back. And America has stated that Taiwan is an ally.
Yep.
So gold is going nowhere but up in terms of trend between now and then.
And just looking closer to home, obviously we know living costs are increasing. We know that the average person is struggling over here. We've got a Labour government and a budget coming on November 26th. One of the main reasons that Solomon Global have private investors, private individuals looking to buy gold bars or gold coins is actually tax efficiency. We asked 14,000 website registrants, and 42% said that tax efficiency was actually their number one reason for buying gold. So with that in mind, I'm just thinking, Clem, what are you expecting out of the budget? I mean, everyone's expecting tax rises. The cash ISA limit is looking like it's going to be slashed to 10,000 again. And with that in mind, how would you invest in gold? The gold coins themselves that are legal tender are VAT exempt and capital gain tax free.
I live in Monaco.
Yeah.
There's 5 reasons to live in Monaco. No tax, no tax, no tax, no tax, and no tax, right? And I feel I've been in that happy situation for over a decade. And I meet a lot of English people that have already left because of that situation. And the answer is you have to be, pardon my pun, as sovereign as possible. And sovereigns are pretty sovereign, yeah? I mean, I literally have reasonable amounts of gold sloshing about. And I put 30 grand's worth in my pocket, got on a plane in Paris and flew to Monaco with 30 grand of gold sovereigns in my pocket. It was a little bit heavy. And at one stage, a whole load of them poured out onto the floor because they're quite heavy. And I thought it'd be the first time that someone would turn up and go, shit, there's gold coins on this floor. What happened? But anyway,
Was
outside
it from a
of
French
that,
museum?
yeah, that's right. I was up the ladder there. Do you want to buy a crown? I've got one. But joking aside, it is very, very, very useful. The downside is someone can break into your house and take it. Okay. The upside is, most normal people can travel with a lot of their assets in their pocket. And, a pocket full of sovereigns going to the x-ray machine, they don't care.
Yeah.
Well, it's just another load of coins in your pocket. And if you are of a nervous disposition, if your money's in the bank, you're stuffed, aren't you? If you've got a credit card and no cash, you're a chicken in the barn, aren't you?
That was one of the strange things about a couple of days ago when the AWS Amazon outage affected Barclays. I think was it Barclays Bank? There was a couple of banks got impacted. You couldn't use banking app. So it does that digitalization does kind of worry you.
I've got something I do need to add, because most people are not lucky enough to be able to have a pocket full of gold. For the people that have those thoughts in their minds, silver coins are the answer, because silver coins are transactional at a B2C level. You can, you could go to a bed and breakfast and buy a night with some gold, with a small gold coin, or silver. You can buy stuff with silver. So, gold is very mobile and very good for being sovereign. But for transactional things, silver is good. So yeah. Silver coins are good because it's like $50, right? So it's like a couple of 20-pound notes.
It. So we're coming towards the end, and I'm just thinking, does anyone have a question or two before we finish? We've got one question at the back over there. Oh, you've got a microphone coming.
He's got a good voice, I can hear him.
Yeah.
Hi there. Thank you very much for the talk. Say we agree with the sentiment around the uncertainty and the risk of war rising. Other than gold, how do you think about alternative precious metals that might have more volatility?
So now you're using a microphone, I can't hear you. What was the last part of it? What's the alternative what?
What are some alternatives to gold that might have greater volatility? Say we agree with your negative sentiment around...
I can only tell you what I plan to do, okay? If I feel that gold hasn't got legs, let's say it goes to 7,000, or even it sputters at 5, okay? And things get a little bit more friendly and I go, okay, maybe it's done its thing. Or maybe silver at say like $80, yeah? So you buy a load at 20 and it's now 80 and you think, oh, it could go to 100, but it could go to 60. The best is over. I will go into platinum and palladium. Platinum and palladium are so unbelievably cheap, I just cannot really get my head around it. And actually silver in a way is very cheap. They make 3,200 tons of gold every year. They make 25,000 tons of silver every year. That's an 8-to-1 ratio. That ain't no 80-to-1 ratio, right? Platinum is, I was talking about platinum, I was going, good grief, $900 an ounce, you're kidding me, right? And I was writing that in Forbes, last year. It's now $1,500 an ounce. Palladium, $1,600 an ounce. So they've gone up, 50%. But they only make 200 tons of that a year. 200 tons, not 3,200, 200 tons of platinum, 200 tons of palladium, right? And platinum used to be 1-to-1 with gold, as was palladium, and at some point it was 2-to-1 to gold. Yeah, so platinum and palladium have been twice as expensive as gold, not 1,500, 8,000 equivalent to today. So I will flip out of gold into platinum and palladium. Platinum and palladium are very cheap because it's been coming out of cat converters into ingots, because cat converters, Tesla replaces a cat converter, which goes to China and gets turned into an ingot, or a little bit of an ingot. But cars are not going electrified anymore. They tell you they are, but they're not, because all available electricity is going into AI, right? It's all going to AI. There's not enough electricity for even the AI, so cars will have to run on petrol, because AI is where the World War III is going to be fought, at the AI level. Please God, right? So there's not enough electricity. If you haven't got national grid shares, or if you're not long copper, you're missing a trick, right? Because all electricity is going to service centers. They will boil the oceans with AI, because there's no second place in AI. No second place. So all the countries will be fighting over who's got the best AI. Europe's already lost. So it's America versus China in AI. And the smartest AI in the smartest country will be the dominant country. So all energy is going to go to AI. And it's better to power your cars with petrol and stick a cat converter in to stop the whales dying and the polar bears melting, than it is to take that electricity and not have it in your intelligence. So the internal combustion engine is not going away, and they will use platinum and palladium to continue to cat convert and use it for things like hydrogen fuel cells. And there's only 200 tons a year being made, and a third of that comes out of Russia. And there are no sanctions on platinum and palladium from Russia. Funny that, right? And it's completely wrong price.
Awesome. Thanks, Clem. I think that's it. So thank you so much, Clem. Thank you everyone
That's
here
my
for
pleasure.
coming today. And have a wonderful day.